This is a Canizaro Creations video, and it's a series that we have been doing about Jack's chain, a very interesting and intricate pattern, and we hope the videos will help in the construction. We have a previous video on how to get a perfect center on your hexagon. This video is going to show you how to inset the triangles, which you can see are oversized and will be trimmed down later on. First thing is to identify the straight of grain on your triangle. So if you hold the triangle at the corners and tug a little, you'll see that kind of is a straight resistance. The other two sides are bias. And so you want your straight of grain to be on the outside of this block. In order to make this an accurate block, you need to put a mark a ½ inch from the point of the triangle. And I've used a Frixion pen just with the mark in the seam allowance. It will disappear later on and it will never be part of your quilt. So you have opened the seam allowances on the 9 patch all the way around the hexagon. So you need to line up the folded edge of the seam allowance on this 9 patch with the dot that we have placed on the triangle and pin. You can see that the triangle is oversized. It will hang out over the end of the block. So you're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance there, making sure you catch your seams correctly, and sew down, opening that seam allowance and ending right at that, where that seam allowance and the stitches intersect. Okay, that's the first side. This is the way it looks when it's sewn. Sewn right to that corner. So without pressing your block at this point, you pivot the triangle to the 9 patch that is adjacent to it. And you'll see that it just naturally wants to lay down and be part of that next triangle. So you pivot, lay it down, pin, and again, stitch to the seam allowance. See, this is what has been done on this finished block. The pressing for this block is to have the triangles flat out. And in order to reduce the bulk at this point of the triangle, I have opened the seam allowance on one 9 patch, and the next one I have folded up. And it just seems to make it less bulky in that triangle there, in the tip of the triangle. And so that's what your finished block looks like. It will be trimmed and used in the quilt.